Okay, I think we will start. Om Badram Karne Bishunuyama Devaha Badram Pashe Makshabirya Jatraha Sthirairangai Tuštuvagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddashavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishvavedaha Swasti nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspati'r Dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. So last class we talked about Ananda as the quintessential nature of every one of us. So when we tread on this journey of discovering the Ananda, which we all consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, we keep trying. We always do that all the time. So when we tread in this path, maybe after several janmas, I do not know, but we keep doing it. And what we realize is there are two things that happen. One pursuit leads us to a cycle of birth and death. We think that is Ananda, and then we keep trying it. But we get into this endless journey of Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Janani, Jatare Shayanam, Iha Samsare, Bhagutustare, like what Shankaracharya says in Bhajagovindam. So there is a certain pursuit of Ananda which it may elevate us in that path. Not that we will be in the same state. We may even go to higher states. But the fact is we will be in this samsara chakra. So this is one possibility. But every scripture talks about it. In Bhagavad Gita also you will find it. 9th chapter 9 shloka 20-21 it will say Kshine Punye Martya Lokam. All that he says. So this happens while we may be better off and better off. After a very long process, long time in the process, we realize this kind of Ananda is not worthwhile. You have to come back again. And you have to keep going into this samsara of birth and death. Huh? So Yayati, in Mahabharata, what Yayati found after 1,000 years and all that. But in Yayati's case, it was Vishaya Sukha. What I am saying is we can be more pious, we can be more dharmic, we can be more, very ethical. I mean, I'm coming to that point. See, the Sanatan Dharma makes it very clear. So I always use accounting 101 to explain this because it's much easier. So you have, as long as you have a debit side and a credit side, and every year if you have to keep posting on both sides on the income and expenses, there will always be some retained earning, positive or negative. If at the end of the period, if you are positive, you transfer that income, excess of income over expenditure into the balance sheet. So like that, so we can have 100 years of positive excess of income over expenditure. In the same way, we can be very ethical, we can be dharmic in that sense of the term, we can be very pious, because a lot of people think that's what it is. Our scriptures say that's not enough, that's only a necessary condition, not sufficient condition. By being very dharmic, by being very pious, very clean in our habits and so on, we will have positive credit. Negative credit may come down. Positive credit will be there. Punya karma will be there. Papa karma will come down. Punya karma will be there. But there is karma. Karma is that accumulated balance of some plus or minus is called karma. So our scriptures say that in this path, if you go, it is an endless journey. While it gives increasing amount of ananda of a certain kind, a greater realization comes, this is not the ananda I am looking at. Is there a way we can get out of the cycle of birth and death? So, Dvivido Vedokto Dharma, I said in the last class, Pravritti Dharmo, Nivritti Dharmoscha. So, in the Pravritti Dharma, which is all engaging in the world of activities, if we are very clean, very pious and all that, we will have a lot of positive credit, which is definitely a good way to, I think that is the way to go. I am not, no way, de-emphasizing it. But much later in this journey, we will actually come to an understanding that this positive credit is as bad as the negative credit in some ways. The credit is not the issue. We have to wipe off all the credit. That's the only way this cycle of birth and death we can get out. But that is a two-step process. I don't think anybody can leapfrog that. Because there is this feeling with a lot of people who attend some Vedantic lectures, and when we talk Vedanta, when Vedanta emphasizes a lot on karma is not what will take. People think that means you can get rid of karma and go somewhere. No. This is, as in mathematics, they say necessary and sufficient condition. This is a necessary condition. Step one. That's why Shankaracharya said, karma ha chitta shuddhaye. Karma is for chitta shuddhi. Chitta shuddhi will come only through karma. By not doing karma, no chitta shuddhi will happen. So that way, when we go, then the naishkarmya will come. Then we'll understand this kind of ananda is not what I am looking for. There is something much more robust, much more non-fleeting, permanent, and all that. Because once you get into this, then it is a roller coaster. Some days are good, some days are not. We have to go through it. We have to go over it and all that kind of things. So therefore, while the Veda has a lot of ideas on Pravritti Dharma, which is very important, I think we must all walk through that path and get the Chitta Shuddhi. Upanishad takes us to the sufficient condition. The necessary condition is what the Purva Bhaga of the Veda is. And the Anta Bhaga, which Vedasya Anta Bhaga, Vedanta, is about the sufficient condition. So therefore, I think we should clean up our act. We should clean up the way we are able to handle our own life and so on. And in that process, if that Chitta Shuddhi comes, then the Upanishadic teachings come very handy in terms of helping us develop that escape velocity from this samsara chakra. So I think both the knowledge is required. There are some people who think, no, if you have to be Vedantic, you can don't have to worry too much about, you can even keep off from the worldly activities, take our hands off. I don't think they are all the right understanding. There is a certain approach to the way we deal with the world that will nullify the karma accumulation. We have to be part of the world. The question is, how do we make sure that neither the debit or a credit balance is accumulating? So that is where the question is, and that's where a lot of ideas come from Upanishad. So I think that's what we were seeing in the last class, that Upanishad gives us that complementary knowledge for us to get the Nishreyas, whereas the Vedasya Purva Bhaga gives us Abhyudaya. I think we need to live a little comfortably as long as we live. I again say that, this is the example I give. Suppose I borrow a book from you. Let us say I borrowed a book from you, which I have to return in one day. That's the meaning of borrow. If you gifted, then I don't have to return. So when I borrow an item from somebody, now good sense prevails in a sensible person understands that I should vouchsafe it, use it, and then give it back. This is a very normal thing. So this body is given by Prakriti to us. It is leased for this Janma. The Pancha Bhutas, the Prakriti Mata is just taken a shape. It has leased that to the Jivatma. So we have to, we should not abuse. We should not, overdo it. That's another story. But I think this is like a book which we have borrowed. So we have a responsibility to maintain it in reasonable ways. And when the calling comes, we have to, that's why the cremation is a very holy act. There is, of course, an emotional part and all that. But the body, the mortal body must be given back to the Prakriti. The Panchabhutas must take it back. It's a very holy act. It should be done with a great sense of responsibility, because I have to give the book back properly. Some of us have this practice. We nicely cover it and give. In a sense of saying, I've used it, so let me put a nice cover. Some people do it. At least, so in the same way, this body has to be preserved properly, maintained. So therefore, Pravritti Dharma is very important. Abhyuda is very important. We cannot overdo it. We can approach it in a particular way. So we do that, but while we do it, this larger wisdom, the greater wisdom of that Ananda, which is ultimate, which we need to really go after. And when such a desire comes, and when we are also thinking of embarking in such a journey, then the Upanishadic teachings are very, very useful. And that is why these Upanishads are extremely valuable granthas for us, because it gives us that complementary knowledge. It is not, in fact, in Upanishad itself, we will see, it doesn't say run away. It only says take a certain perspective to the life and understand the larger principles of who I am and why I exist and all that. So this Upanishad is also very nice in that fashion. It brings these ideas so beautifully and so on. So that's what we were seeing. I think we stopped here talking of Upanishads. Originally 1200 odd Upanishads were there, which were mostly not available. At least now 108 Upanishads have been identified and archived, and of which 10, I would say 16 Upanishads, 14 Upanishads, I would say, not even 16. There are 10 major Upanishads, and then there are 4 more: Kaivalya Upanishad, Amrita Bindu Upanishad, Shvetashwara Upanishad, like this. 3-4 Upanishads are there. They are a little more frequently commented. People also sort of been using it. So that's how the body of knowledge that we have. And this is where we stopped last class. I think we said the Upanishads are also under the 4 Vedas anyway, because every Veda has these 4 components: Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. So you find the respective Upanishads in each of those. As I was saying, Mundakopanishad is in Atharva Veda along with Prashna Upanishad also, and Mandukya also. I think all the 3 Upanishads belong to Atharva Veda. Of the 10, 3 of them are in Atharva Veda. These Mundakopanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, and Prashna Upanishad, and so on. So I think this is where we more or less stopped last class. We will just take it forward. Before we go further, when we did Taittiriya Upanishad, we did talk in a certain amount of detail of the meaning of the word Upanishad. So I think it helps to recapitulate it now, so that we are clear as to what this thing. So there are 2 broad meanings articulated for Upanishad. The first one is this Upanishad. See, this word, any Sanskrit word, if you take, the Sanskrit word, actually, there is a logic of building a Sanskrit word. There is a dhatu, or there is a, either a dhatu or a, verb stem or a noun stem. This is what is Pradipadika. Pradipadika is noun. This whole Sanskrit word, the whole Sanskrit literature is actually on a rule-based construction. Words don't simply throw. You can write an algorithm and generate the whole any word. So the methodology is there is a root first. The root can be a verb root or a noun root, depending upon whether you want a verb or a noun. It's a very structured language. Then there is something called pratyaya. Basically, you need only that, a root and a suffix. And moment you attach a suffix, some rules are kicks off automatically, and that is applied. And then the word is derived. Sometimes you can put prefix also. There are 22 prefixes available in Sanskrit. And the purpose of the prefix is to either emphasize the word, sometimes take the opposite meaning. Gachati, agachati is opposite meaning, right? The prefix a is always opposite. Gachati, agachati, nayati, anayati, like that. Prefixes are always added to the verb, actually, not to the noun. Okay. So here, what you have is, and you can add multiple prefixes also. That makes it, even more. See, pratyagachati, prati agachati. Prati is one prefix, a is another prefix. Both of them are added to gach. The verb gach means go. So pratyagachati means he came back. Agachati is coming, prati is return. So this is how you can add quite a few prefixes also. 2, 3, even 4 if you want, you can add. Here you have 2 prefixes. Upa is one prefix. Ni is another prefix. Shad is the verbal root. Dhatu. This upa means near. This is called upanetra in Sanskrit because it is near the netra. So it's called upanetra. Upanayana. There is upanayana ceremony. Nayana is leading. Upanayana is leading closer to the god. That ritual is supposed to get this young boy on the path closer to the god. That is the meaning of upavas. We want to stay near the god. Upavas is not fasting. Upavas, vasati. Bhagavantasya samipe vasati. That day you spend your time contemplating. That is the meaning actually. Upavas meaning is that. Now we have, converted into a noun, and then that's why if you know the roots, you understand the meaning very well. So upa means near, apa means away. That's another prefix. So here we are using upa. Upa is near. Ni is again upasarga, which means low. Or nikate, near also. Low, near, these are all some of the meanings of the thing ni. And shad is the shad. I'll come to the shad part. Shad has, see, every dhatu in Sanskrit. There's one dhatu pada, 2200 dhatus are there. There's a dhatu pada. People memorize everything because that's the best way to master the language. So every dhatu will be used in multiple contexts. So one of the contexts for shad is gatyarte, to go, gati. Dhatupada, you'll see Shadr Gatyarte Avasane. Like that, it will say, how can you use this verb? In what context? This is how the Dhatupada is. So there is a Gatyarte. In the meaning of going, you can use Shad. That's what Dhatupada says. So here, in this meaning, Upanishad means, near what? Near a guru actually. And sit near by the side of the guru. So, we see that figure, there is a guru sitting, and so that is one way to understand Upanishad. This is one meaning. The other, the shad alone, if you take, actually the dhatu, if you see, it will say shadr.
The slide is not properly shared for YouTube.
Is it?
Some sure.
YouTube is running now. No, it is stop. It is now, screen is being shared now. Past.
Yeah,
oh, resume share. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, when I did this. Right. Okay. Oh, if I minimize it, it passes. So I have to maximize it. Let me stop and start. This is a very complex technology I'm going through here. Let me share screen again. Okay. Stop share. Sorry. Yes. Share screen.
This is the third from in the
This one, no?
next one.
This one.
Next one. Yeah, that is yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. It's okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this Shad, actually, this Panini is such a brilliant mind. What he does is, for example, Kru is, we think Kru is the Dhatu for work, na? Karo, Karoti. It's not Kru. If you look at in Dhatu Pata, it will say Dugranj. Nahi nahi rakshati Dugranj Karane is what Adi Shankara says in his Vajagovindam. The Dhatu is called Dugranj. What this Panini has done is, when he has used the Dhatu, he puts some tags on either sides. Sometimes one side, sometimes both sides. Because using that tag, he invokes a set of rules. For example, any dhatu with do, dukranj is do. The do is actually null. But because that dhatu has do, there are set of rules which you have to invoke when there is a dhatu having a do. In the same way, here you have shadl r. The r is of no use. But he has put r, because if you put r, it is called ubeyapati. There are some rules he invokes. So it is actually shad. I have to say this because shadl r is what you will read. This Panini has put a lot of tags on many things, which helps him to intelligently create sets on which rules will apply. So that's how the r is coming. So forget about the r now. Shad. Shad has three meaning. If you look at Dhatupata, it will say Visharana Gatyarte Avasadhaneshu. In these three situations, use Shad. Okay. Now, this Visharana actually means to split up. Avasadhana is loosen up. So another meaning of Shad is, in fact, it comes very beautifully in this Upanishad. It comes. Vidyate hritaya grantihi. It comes. It loosens your. See, this chit and jada is tightly woven. Ordinary people like us, the chit, the sentient and the insentient is so tightly woven. There is no difference between the two. It looks like there is a huge difference between the two, but they are so tightly woven. In this Upanishad, it says the Upanishad, this understanding will loosen up. That's the meaning. So that is another meaning for Shad. Go is one meaning, which is where we use on the left side to go near the, the other two are Visharana and Avasadhana, which means loosen up or split or destroy. So Upanishad, meaning of Upanishad is you go near someone so that your Ajnana gets destroyed. Your Ajnana is completely obliterated. So that is the meaning of the word Upanishad. So these words are all properly constructed with some rules. So Upanishad means that which the knowledge and the deeper, understanding of the concepts and practice and experience will loosen you up from this ignorance. That's the meaning. In this, there is one mantra in Mundakopanishad which will exactly say that, which anyway we will see as we go on. So anyway, we saw this in Taitra Upanishad also, but it helps to keep this meaning of Upanishad at the back of our mind, so that it's always there with us whenever we go through the mantras. So let's now a little bit get into Mundakopanishad, get a bird's eye view of Mundakopanishad before we get into specific details and so on. I can hide the panel, correct. This thing is this thing was not going. Cursor was missing. Okay, so as I told, Mundakopanishad is part of the Atharva Veda, and Mundakopanishad is called Mantra Upanishad. So I want to clarify that. You will read it somewhere. If you take a book, it says Mundakopanishad is a Mantra Upanishad. There is a reason for it. See, any literature can be Gadya or Padya, prose or prosody. It can be nice shloka or it can be a paragraph. See, Taitra Upanishad is actually a paragraph. Brahmavida apnoti param tadesha bhyukta satyam jnanam anantam brahma yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman. Paragraph. There are paragraph. That is called Gadya. Whereas this Upanishad is in meter, proper meter. Padya. Padya comes from the word pada. It has 4 quarters. Generally, if you take a shloka, Shuklam Baradaram Vishnum Sashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignoprashanti, there are exactly 4 quarters. Anushtup. Shuklam Baradaram Vishnum Sashivarnam Chaturbhujam. Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet is the 3rd quarter. Sarva Vignoprashanti is the 4th quarter. So that's why it's called Padya. When something is written in Pada, following a certain meter. Here it's there are 2-3 different meters are there, but the fact that it follows a meter. It is not a uniform meter here. Anyway, now in Upanishad, in the entire Vedic repository, we had Samhitas, Brahmanas, I said. The Samhitas are always mantras. They are in only, that's why, so whenever something is on a metrical thing, there is a practice, say it is a mantra. That's how the word mantra Upanishad comes. Because mantra generally means Samhita portion of the Veda, which is Agnimi, Ile, Purohitam, Yajnasya, Deva Hritvijam, Hota, Aram, Ratna, Datam. It's a proper Gayatri Chandas. 3 into 8, 24, you will find. Like that. That's why it is called mantra. So any Upanishad which reads like a mantra, they call it as Mantra Upanishad. So Ishavasya is also a Mantra Upanishad. Whereas Taittiriya, Chandogya, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, these are all prose. So they are all not called Mantra Upanishad. So that's how the word comes actually. And many people feel this is complementary to Prashna Upanishad. Both are from the Atharva Veda. So it talks certain ideas there, and some of the ideas that you need to, and one can read both these and get complementary ideas. That's what some people feel. So people feel that this is a complementary Upanishad, both from the Atharva Veda. Yeah. The word Mundaka, and there are some people, when we are not a little diligent, we casually look at it, they confuse between Mandukya and Mundaka. They sound pretty closer, no? They are not. Because Mandukya comes from Manduka. Manduka is a frog. And Mandukya is a Taddita. It's called a Taddita Pratyaya. It's like India, Indian. Like that, Dasharati, Dasharathasya Apatyam Puman Dasharati, like that. So Adi Vriddhi, whenever it happens many times, I think this is a Taddita of Manduka, I think. Anyway, Mandukya is another Upanishad. Mandukya Upanishad has just 12 mantras, but it is a very profound, very deep, these 4 states of consciousness and all that. And there is a huge, Gaudapada's Karika. Without that, it is difficult to understand those 12 mantras. Anyway, that is Mandukya. This is Mundaka. So Mundana is shaving, no? So Mundaka is, it's called Mundaka Upanishad simply because there is this signaling that it is for the true seekers. Many of the true seekers are sannyasins. So one linga of sannyasi is shaven head. So that way it is saying it is for the true seekers. That is a path with which you have to get there into this thing. Also, some people say, it has very razor sharp ideas. So you need a razor sharp tool to, shave off of your ignorance, right? So anyway, this Upanishad is called Mundakopanishad. And this Upanishad has, actually, it is organized into 3 Mundakas. Mundaka 1, Mundaka 2, Mundaka 3. You can think like 3 books, let us say. Book 1, book 2, book 3. Mundaka 1, Mundaka 2, Mundaka 3. And in each of them, there are 2 chapters. Canto 1, Canto 2. So essentially 6 chapters is what this Mundakopanishad is. And there are 64 mantras, 64 shlokas, so to say, metered shlokas. So this is essentially the content of Mundakopanishad, right? And the first Mundaka is 22 mantras, of which actually the first 9 mantras also include the basic question that Shaunaka asked. All those are there. But anyway, the first chapter in the first Mundaka very quickly talks about what is called Paravidya and Aparavidya. That's the central theme in this Upanishad, which is expanded in a particular way. Paravidya and Aparavidya. That is introduced in the first canto. The second canto has 13 mantras, where the Guru goes into the kind of rituals. And if we do rituals thinking that is the only way to reach the attain of ultimate salvation, then we are stuck with only the necessary condition, not the sufficient condition. So he brings that idea. He says, Ante na niyamana etandaha. There is a nice mantra. If somebody thinks like that and think this is the only thing and this is the only thing we'll have to do, the Upanishad says it is like a blind man leading a set of 10 blind men is led by another blind man. He says, I know where to take you, I will take you. We don't know where they will go, because how can a blind take another blind? Like that, those mantras are there. Anyway, so the first Mundaka talks about why rituals can go only up to a point. As I told you, we should have a chitta shuddhi. That's very, very important. Without that, nothing is ever possible. So that is a lifetime effort, maybe several janmas effort, which we must. There is no second thinking about it. Our problems are our day-to-day activities put so much of problems in our mind. We are so sort of stained with so many things that you cannot take away. But then to think that is the ultimate is where the problem. That is where this second chapter will bring those ideas in a different way. So with that, the first Mundaka ends. Then comes the second Mundaka, which has 21 mantras, again into 2 chapters, 10 mantra in the first chapter and 11 mantras in the second chapter. In the second Mundaka, it establishes the notion of Brahman, that there is a concept called Brahman. So again, there are some nice similes in this Upanishad. It says Pavakat, Vispulingaha, Sahasrashaha, like that. There are all some nice mantras are there. We'll see them. So it establishes, it articulates Brahman. See, Brahman articulating Taittiriya Upanishad second chapter. So Taittiriya second chapter says Brahma with apnoti param. That is the Upadesha, and that is the end of the Upadesha, over. But then it is very difficult. So tada esha tadesha abhyukta tadesha abhyukta. Then how do you explain Brahman? In Taittiriya, the 10 Upanishads have taken different approaches. That's why if you read the 10 Upanishads properly, we'll get a much better understanding. In Taittiriya Upanishad, it gave what is called Swarupa Lakshana. See, there is something called, so I said Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. It says, what is Brahman? Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, and Ananta. Again, it's difficult to understand. So it gets into Tatastha Lakshana. Tatastha Lakshana is a very nice concept in Vedanta. What it says is, if I don't know how to tell you where the house is, you say, you look at there one coconut tree. So below the coconut tree, do you see one yellow color painting? That house. So we are not talking the house, we are talking yellow color and coconut. That is called Tatastha Lakshana. So the Taittiriya Upanishad does, here also we'll find only Tatastha, because Brahman can only be explained with that. Swarupa Lakshana is further explained only with Tatastha Lakshana. So that's what it did. Akashat, Vayu, Vayoragnya, that also started talking about how the Brahman came down and all that kind of thing. So it will take a different approach. So the middle portion of the Upanishad introduces Brahman in its own way, which is a little different from what we see in Taittiriya Upanishad. Better it be different. If it is the same, then why are we reading all the Upanishads again and again? It gives different angles from which the rishis have tried to somehow articulate, so that we can try to put together these ideas and contemplate for our own sake and get a sense of what it is. Then comes the third Mundaka, again 21 mantras. Again 10 mantras in the first chapter and 11 mantras in the second chapter. And the first chapter in the third starts with a beautiful simile of a tree in which there are two birds sitting. Samanam vriksham parishasva jate. It's what it says. There are two birds sitting on the same tree, and it talks about the sakshi and the the empirical atma and the sakshi. That's what it talks about. Very nicely it brings that concepts. It explains how we get into ignorance, why this knowledge is evading us. So that part comes a little bit in that first thing. And the last chapter, Brahma Veda, Brahma Bhavati. And then it says for how many generations and all that are very nice mantras are there. What is the prayojana? What happens when you realize Brahman? So that is being extolled in the last canto of the third Mundaka. So this is how it is organized. There is a certain logic in which broadly I have set up the logic here. But with these different shlokas, there are 3-4 dominant messages this Mundakopanishad is actually driving for us to sort of contemplate and make sense of it. So the first one is, the first message that it seeks to give is the lower doctrine and the higher doctrine, the apara vidya and para vidya. It introduces the notion of para vidya. And in the third mantra and the first chapter, it is over. When Shaunakaha Mahashalaha Vidivat Angirasam Papracha Kasmin Vijnate Sarvamidam Vijnatam Bhavati. Immediately he said Parachaiva Paracha. And then he says, what is para, what is apara? In very concise form, he has said, we'll have to sort of see it. But anyway, so he says that this apara vidya will not give you the release. You will get into the cycle forever. So if your goal is into the cycle, that is okay. But if you understand the futility of it after some time, then you need to go to the next, you have to develop that escape velocity to go out of this. So this is one main message that you get from the Upanishad, that there is something called Paravidya, there is something called Aparavidya, and Aparavidya will not release you. Then if you ask, is it required? Definitely it is required. As I told you, it is required because it is a necessary condition to even to get into the sufficient condition. Otherwise, it is, in basic calculus, we have some youngsters here to say, we have basic calculus, we say first derivative has to be, if you make the first derivative 0, you don't know whether it is maxima or minima, very elementary calculus. Then they say you take a second derivative. If it is positive, it is minima. If it is negative, it is maxima. It's called necessary and sufficient conditions. With one condition, you cannot say anything. You need both. In the same way, we need Chitta Shuddhi. We need Apara Vidya for Chitta Shuddhi and for contemplation. We need Para Vidya for, that's why same idea, Ishavasya says differently. It says avidya, it says aparavidya, avidya. Shankaracharya has given that commentary. Aparavidya is avidya, he says. Because why? Ishavasya Upanishad says avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnute. There is some 4th, 6th mantra or 7th mantra in Ishavasya. It says avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnute. So there it takes a view like that. So that is the first message that Mundakopanishad gives. Then the second message it gives, which every Upanishad tries. Because how did it say in Taitra Upanishad? No, that is much later. In the very beginning it said, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guha Yam Parame Vyoman. Then that's Kama answer Brahmana Vipaschiteti Tasmadva. It starts from there. Tasmadva etasmad Manasambhuta Akashad Vayuhu Vayoragnihi Agnerapah Abhya Prithivi Prithivyam Oshadayah Oshadipyonam Annat Purusha. In one 4 sentences, it finished that process. Here, it took a chapter to, sort of put this Brahman in different ways and so on. So every Upanishad has taken, but every Upanishad tries to say what is the relation between you and Brahman. That is brought by every Upanishad. Then later it said, how did it come? Soka mayata bahusyam prajayeti satapo tapyata satapas taptva idagum sarvam asrijata edidam krincha tat srishtva tadevan upravishad. Anupravishad, he entered, the God particle entered into everything. After creating this world of multiplicity, tadanu pravishya satchatyacha bhavat niruktam cha niruktancha nilayanancha nilayanancha vijnanancha vijnanancha satyam cha nritam cha satyam abhavat. There it explains like that in the Upanishad. So here also there is a description of what is this Brahman, how this Brahman manifested, how we are all part of Brahman. Shvetashra Upanishad says, Vayam sarve amritasya putraha. So it articulates it in a different way. We are all children of immortality. Like that it says. So that is another message. Then this Upanishad also gives some important direction, spiritual as well as moral, to the aspirants. You need both. So it gives both. Some instructions, directions are there. That is also part of the messaging that you find in Mundakopanishad. And of course, lastly, showing how the Paravidya, higher wisdom, enables one to realize one's eternal identity with the Brahman in this very life. Idamidanim, in this life. See, that is the charm of our literature. God and God realization, God are not some alien entities. They say it is here and now. But the process may be quite complicated, difficult, that's a different thing. But the very conceptualization is very unique. It says here and now. God is not a remote entity sitting in a simhasana somewhere, and then when you make sins, I will pardon you, and then on the judgment day I will do. That's not our conceptualization. Our conceptualization is God is here now. Throughout all scriptures say only that. Now the process of seeing that and being that is a complicated, maybe a difficult, all that is a different story. The very conceptualization is very important. So it says now in this very life you can, that assurance. Repeatedly the Vedic corpus and our scriptures, our scriptures draw only from Vedic corpus, whether it is Puranas, whether it is Ramayana, Mahabharata, or whether it is Arthashastra or anything you take. It all draws only from there. That is our reference. That's why in Sanatan Dharma, our only reference is Shruti, Shruti Pramana. Vayam sarve Shruti Pramanaha. The ultimate Pramana for us is Shruti. From there it has to flow. So these are some of the ideas. I will quickly show some mantras before we actually get in. I will quickly take you through some of the mantras. For example, from the first Mundaka, it starts like this. Kasminnu bhagavo vijnate sarvamitam vijnatam bhavati. That's what Shaunaka asked. Tell me, by knowing that I will be known of everything. Sarvamitam vijnatam bhavati. Kasmin vijnate sarvamitam vijnatam bhavati. That's the starting point for the Upanishad actually. The third mantra in the first chapter is that. First two mantras tells how this knowledge passed down from Brahman down. That is the first two mantras. Then Shaunaka comes and then he asks this question. Then in reply, immediately Angiras said, Dve vidye veditavye. Know that there are two types of vidyas. Paracha eva aparacha. Paracha eva aparacha. So that mantra also you see in the first Mundaka. Then as I told you, in the second chapter of the first Mundaka, he says, Andhe neva niyamana yathandaha. A blind man leading a set of blind men. That mantra is also there. I just wanted to show you a few mantras as a trailer before we get into the detailed discussions later. The second Mundaka, there are some nice mantras. Yada sudiptat, from the Deepa. Okay? Pavakat vispulinga is, more than the Deepa, it is that firecracker is the best example. That soft, this thing, so many things come out of it, no? Sparks. This Vispulingas are the sparks. So, kids play, there so many divergent they come. That is the example it gives. Just like from the Agni, from one source, you have thousands of divergent sparks coming. That one source is Brahman. We are all those sparks coming from that. That's how the mantra says. Vispulingaha sahasrashaha prabhavante sarupaha. In the same way, this world of multiplicity came out of that single source. So that's a simile it gives. In the second Mundaka, you'll find it. Then vidyate hridaya grantihi chidyante sarva samshaya tasmin drishte paravare. When you develop that vision, you are uncoiled. The chid jada granthi is loosened. This is the loosening part in the Upanishad. This Upanishad has that mantra itself saying that. So it says vidyate hridaya grantihi. It gets cut off. Chidyante sarva samshayaha, all doubts vanish, obliterated to thin air. Tasmin drishte paravare. That mantra is like that. So there is one mantra like that. Then this is a very famous mantra which people use always for Deeparadhana. Natatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhantam kuto yam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya basa sarvamitam vibhati. Natatra suryo bhati. In front of him, sun pales. Sun's brightness is nothing. Bhati is shines. Na? Natatra suryo bhati. Na chandra tarakam. Not the stars, not the moon. Nema vidyuto bhanti. Not even this lightning. That energy and light is nothing. Kutoyam agnihi. What to talk of Agni? That's a very small little source of light. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya basa sarvomitam vibhati. He lights the world of light. Like that mantra is there. These are all the lakshana of Brahman told in different ways. That is the subject matter of the second Mundaka. So I thought I just wanted to show you a few mantras from there. The third Mundaka, as I told you, starts with the two birds. Those Suparna, Sayuja, Sakaya, friendly birds. Samanam, they are very similar, identical, mirror image. Vriksham parishasva jate, tayoranyaha pippalam atti. That's how the mantra goes. Of the two birds, one bird just kept quiet. The other bird started eating the fruit. First three mantras, this is the first mantra. In the third Mundaka's first chapter's first mantra, this. Those Suparna, Sayuja, Sakaya, Samanam, Vriksham, Parishasva jate. They are perching on the same branch at two, same tree at two branches. Then the mantra goes on to say, one fellow started eating, other fellow started looking what this fellow is eating. The fellow who was looking was embodiment of peace. Fellow started eating, had all kinds of tastes. So that's how it goes actually. Okay. Then our emblem is here. Satyameva jayate nanritam. That is in Mundakopanishad. Satyasya panta devayanaha. That mantra will come. Satyameva jayate na anritam. That's what it says. Nanritam. Ritam, anritam. Satyam and Ritam we saw in Taittiriya Upanishad. There is subtle difference between Satya and Rita. But these two are very fundamental to our Sanatana Dharma. Satya and Rita. Bisha sadvatah pavate bishodeti suryaha mrityurdhyavati panchamaiti. There is a mantra like that. That's a Rita. There is a perfect cosmic order. Even Yama is afraid. The Vayu is afraid. That's what that mantra says. Mrityurdhyavati panchamaiti. Bishasma dvatah pavate bishodeti suryaha. Sun. That's called Rita. And there is a subtle difference between Satya and Rita. But anyway, but Anrita is falsehood, or that rhythm, word rhythm came from Ritam. The English word rhythm has come from Ritam only. That's the meaning. There is a cosmic rhythm. Yeah, right. Then finally, also it says, Yada Nadyaha Sandhyamanaha Samudre Astam Gachanti Namarupe Vihaya. All great rivers in this world will lose its name and form finally. That's why they are running ceaselessly. The greatest Brahmaputras and Niles and whatever you call Ganges, they start from Parvataraja and they run ceaselessly and they find their peace only when they Samudre Astam Gacchati. Namarupe Vihaya. It just loses its name and yes. Shankaracharya in Shivananda Lagari has 100 shlokas, Shivananda Lagari, a beautiful set of shlokas and bhakti. Shankaracharya wrote also a very nice treatise on bhakti, which is Shivananda Lagari. In 61st shloka of that 100, he defines bhakti. Ankolakam nijabija santatihi ayaskanto palam suchika sadvim naijavibum latakshitturugam Sindhu Sarid Vallabham. The fifth example he gives is Sindhu Sarid Vallabham. The river's husband is the ocean. So he gives 5 levels of bhakti, and the meaning I have understood there is the ultimate essence of bhakti is you have to lose your identity. In Vaishnava Sampradaya, we call it as prapatti, that we have to surrender and lose the identity completely, for which he said, Sindhu Sarid Vallabham. Ankolakam nijabija santatihi. There's an Ankolaka tree. And if there are 10 Ankolaka trees, and if they shed the seeds, if this tree's seed is here, and the trees go to the respective mother and the trunk is full of seeds. So this seed will not go to this Ankolaka tree, it will only go to its mother, not shortest path. It will go to it. So that's the first example he gives, Shankaracharya. There's a Purusha Prayatna. The seed has to make a Prayatna to reach the tree. Then the second example he gives is Ayaskanto Palam Suchika. Magnet can be moved to the needle, iron. The iron can be moved to the magnet. Prayatna can be on either sides. In the earlier first case, Prayatna is only from the seed. Tree cannot move. Like that, he gave 5 examples. The 5th example he gave this. Sindhu Sarid Vallabham is the 5th ultimate example he gave. Because bhakti, moksha, all will also nama rupe vihaya, everything will go at that stage. All vocabulary will all vanish. Until then, we may have to fight on this vocabulary and all that. So that's what it says. Yata nadya, nadyaha, rivers, nadi nadyaha. Rivers, syandamanaha, samudre astam gachanti, nama rupe vihaya. So finally, it says what will happen. At that time, this mantra comes. I thought I'll just, quickly take you through some mantras, because the trailer is very important. Then we'll see the full length story later. See, our all our texts have what is called Anubandha Chatushtayam. In other words, there are 4 things we should understand whenever we, not only text, whenever we engage in anything. Anubandha Chatushtaya is very, very useful. Anubandha Chatushtayam is there. And it talks about 4 things. One is Adhikari. Who is the Adhikari? Not, in fact, if you give certain things to certain people, it is of no use. Some people they ask me, sir, they are playing, Veda here, guys. I said, there's no problem here. Don't worry. Because Adhikari will take it. Otherwise, we don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about all these things. You need Adhikaritva. Only then we will get the prasada. So for anything, you need to know the Adhikari. Who is the Adhikari? That is the first part of the Anubandha Chatushtaya. Second is Vishaya. What is the matter? What is the subject matter which the Adhikari is qualified to consume? That is the Vishaya. Third is the Sambandha. What is the linkage we are establishing here? What is being, which are all the entities which are being linked through this whole exercise? That's called Sambandha. And then Prayojana. What is the benefit? So there is something called Anubandha Chatushtayam. Because I read Shankara Bhashya, in which I saw, Adhikari and Vishaya. Then suddenly the idea came, I took the mantras to show, these mantras are showing this Anubandha Chatushtaya for Mundakopanishad. So the first thing is that it says, Shaunakaha Angirasam Vidivat Upasannaha Papracha. The word there is Vidivat. So there is a certain prescription. There is a certain, my simple rule, I keep saying that. These 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we can do 100,000 things in life. Why should we come and sit here? That is the first role of Adhikaritva. We have made the choice. So many things we have given up and come here. That is the indication of Adhikaritva. There is a genuine interest that we are exhibiting. There is a certain care and effort that we take so that we want to imbibe this knowledge. For such people, knowledge will come. For others, some people can also come and sit. They don't know what to do. There is one room here, we can sit. That is also okay. They are not adhikaris. The Vidivat has and one of them is Samitapanihi. In several Upanishads, you will find. With Samit in his hand, the Samit is a very expression of something. At that mantra, we will see. It always says Samitapani. When you go and approach the master, go with a bunch of Samit in your hand is a symbolic expression of Adhikaritva actually. Anyway, so here also it says, huh? Yes. So, Gurumeva Bigache Samitapanihi, it says, Prashnopanishad also you'll find. In several Upanishads, you'll find that there is a way you approach in Viveka Chodamani also in the first 25-30 slokas, you'll find. There is a certain adhikaritva which we have to exhibit. So, these two mantras in a way indicate that in Mundakopanishad. Vishaya is Brahma Vidya, Para and Apara Vidya. That is the Vishaya which is being discussed. Very clearly, that is the starting point, and throughout it goes. So, Sarvesham Upanishadasya Vishaya Brahma Vidya eva. So, there is no doubt on it. We don't have to very explicitly think about it and so on. And also, the Sambandha is the Sambandha between Brahma, Paramatma and Jivatma. That is the Sambandha which is established in all these texts. So this mantra, for example, just now we saw Yata Sudhipta Pavaka Vispulingaha Sahasrasha Prabhavante Sarupaha. How this Paramatma expresses itself into Jivatma, that mantra just now we saw. That's an indication of the Sambandha that is being talked about. And on the Prayojana also, there are many mantras. The third Mundaka's last chapter is entirely on it. But Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi Chiyante Asya Samshayaha, just now I showed that mantra. Brahmaveda Brahmaiva Bhavati. That is another clear indication of what is a Prayojana. Then this Vedanta, these again are very famous. These mantras are very famous. Vedanta Vikya Sanunischitartha Sanyasa Yoga Dyataya Suddha Sattva Aha Te Brahma Loke Tupara Antakale Paramrita Parimuchyanti Sarve. This mantra is very frequently uttered. This is again in this Upanishad only. Paramritaha Parimuchyanti Sarve. They get liberated of everything, completely unshackled with everything. The previous line is Vedanta Vijnat Sunischitartaha. They are absolutely understood this ultimate idea conveyed in Vedanta Vidya. Vedanta Vidya Sunischitartaha Sanyasa Yogat Etaya Suddha Sattvaha. They have made that effort. Te Brahma Loke Paranta Kale, which means before you go, you have gotten your realization. Parimuchyanti Sarve. Paramrita Parimuchyanti Sarve. Not goal. Goal is not really the right word. Prayojana means, what will it do to me? Finally, benefit we can say. I mean, those words are a little here and there. Essentially, what we are saying is, if I engage on something, what will happen to me? Here is Atma Vidya, that's why I'm asking what will happen to me, like that. What is the desired effect of that, engaging in that? Effect may be a slightly better word, slightly larger word than goal and things like that, some kind of a transformative effect on me and so on. Okay, I think we will take it to the next. So we will start with the preamble of Shankaracharya in Shankara Bhashya. He gave a certain preamble of some, again, 10 sentences. I think 6 o'clock. Let us not start now. We will see the preamble. We will see the meaning of the Shanti mantra and then get into the Mundaka mantras. I think that is proper. We will go that way. I think we will stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. No, 1.5 hours I did because of Ramayana. I usually it is 1 hour only. The Gita, this thing we did 1.5 hours. Only certain things we did 1.5 hours.